So we are on page 9. And we're discussing the subject of bitachon. So we mentioned last week that there are two things that usually they're mentioned together. And on the surface, it looks like they're both the same, but they're really not exactly the same, they're different. The two things are emunah and bitachon. Emunah means to have faith in Hashem. Bitachon means to have faith in Hashem. But really the difference, the translation of both is different. Emunah means faith, and bitachon means confidence. So just to refresh what we said on Thursday, was that emunah means that I believe in Hashem that He could help me, which means no matter what the circumstances are, the fact that it looks like whatever it is that I need looks like it's impossible for this to happen. Impossible means according to the laws of nature, but Hashem is not limited by the laws of nature. He's the one who created the world. He created all the laws of nature. And therefore, he himself is not limited in any way by these laws of nature. So therefore, it doesn't matter what the doctor says, doesn't matter what the lawyer says, doesn't matter what the military expert says. If Hashem wants something to happen, it'll happen. So I believe that Hashem could make this thing happen, that I should have the bracha that I need. But I can't be sure that it's actually going to happen. How can I be sure? So there's another concept in Torah, which is that we should have bitachon. And bitachon means confidence. So now there's two ways to interpret this. This is where we left off last week, and I'll explain it now. One way is a more simple way, and that is that most people understand this concept of trust. Trust means that I have peace of mind. I am calm. Why am I calm? Because I say to myself that Hashem is in charge. He can do everything and anything. And if he doesn't want this negative thing to happen, he can do that. And if it does happen, I know that Hashem himself is in charge. And if it does happen, it must mean that it's for my benefit. That's the way most people, we're not going to give that explanation here. We're going a step further, but that's the sort of step one. That's the superficial way of explaining bitachon. That bitachon means peace of mind, calm. But the calm comes from the fact that I say to myself, either Hashem will make it not happen, and if it does happen, this negative thing, it's also from Hashem. And being that everything Hashem does is for the good, so I'm also calm because I know that it's for the good. But according to this, I can't really be sure that things will turn out to be good the way I perceive it to be good. Now, explanation to all this and why we're going to explain it on a deeper level. There's much more to learn about it, but I'm just going to give you the sort of the end result. The way it's explained by the Baal Shem Tov, the way it's explained in Chassidus, and it's also based on the writings of one of the earlier rabbis, one who wrote a book called Cheshvan called The Duties of the Heart. He also discusses different character traits, and he talks about bitachon. And he explains it, and this is the way we're going to explain it today, is that not only am I calm and have peace of mind because I'm confident that whatever comes out will be good, but I'm actually confident that it'll be good in a revealed way, in a way that I will perceive it as is good. So if a person is looking for a job and they can't find a job, and I say I have confidence in Hashem, according to the first interpretation, it means, well, if I find the job, I'll be calm. And if I don't find the job, I'll be calm because I guess that's what Hashem wants. It's my benefit. According to the second interpretation, no. Bitachon means I have confidence in Hashem that I will actually find a job that will be something that will be good for me, and I'll be happy, and I'll have what I need. Big question is, how could a person be confident? How could I know for sure that Hashem is going to do it? Especially when we study Torah, and one of the principles of faith, it's actually one of the 13 principles, is that there's a system of reward and punishment, which means Hashem gives us, he's definitely capable of giving us everything and anything, but he gives us according to our merits. So if I act a certain way, if I conduct myself in a certain positive way, I will receive reward. If I do the opposite will happen. How can I be sure that I deserve this and this good to happen? Maybe for some reason or other, I don't deserve. So even though I believe in Hashem and I believe that Hashem is kind and that he's good, but nevertheless, there is a system of reward and punishment. And how can I be confident? How can I be certain that I will deserve this reward? Follow me? Okay. Yes.
So we have to be comfortable with whatever the outcome is.
That's the first thing that we said, yes, because I trust in Hashem. But then it means that I can't say that I'm sure things will turn out to be good in a way that I perceive as good. It'll be good, but the way Hashem perceives that it's good. And I can't be sure that I'll actually not be evicted from my apartment. Or I can't be sure that I'll actually find a job. Or I can't be sure that this person who's sick will actually be cured. The second interpretation is no, that I am confident that they'll be good in a way that we humans perceive it as good. And I'm asking, what's the basis for that? So there's a lot of details to this, but let me first give the general idea. The general idea is that, again, how do I know that I will deserve and I'll have the merit? And the answer is that bitachon means Hashem, in a sense, is saying to me, if you trust me, and you trust me because I'm telling you to trust me, in that merit itself, you will benefit to have the bracha that you're looking for. Now, we're asking a question. Maybe I don't have the merit. Maybe I'm not kind enough to other people. Maybe my davening is not so good. Maybe I don't make brachas every time I should. Maybe I don't keep Shabbos the proper way. Maybe I'm not worthy. So the answer is, for the mere fact that you have trust in me, Hashem says, that alone is the merit in which you can be confident you'll get what you're asking for, what you're looking forward for. And this is the mashal that comes to my mind. The mashal that comes to my mind is that, in a sense, what we're saying is there's sort of two systems, the way Hashem runs this world. One is a system which is the regular system, that you do this, you get reward. You do that, the opposite happens. You do more, you get more reward. Everything that happens is according to what I've done, and therefore what I deserve. There's another system where Hashem says, and that sort of transcends the regular order. And that is, if you have bitachon, if you have this trust in me, for that reason alone, I will give you what you're trusting. So I would compare it to this. Imagine you have to cross a river. And this river has a lot of dangers in it. Dangerous fish, there's maybe whatever you can think of, sharks, whales, things that are dangerous. And there's a very strong current. So first of all, to get across, you have to be able to swim. You have to be able to handle this kind of danger. What if you meet up with a shark? What are you going to do? So only people that are very skilled can do that. If you're not very skilled, you wouldn't be advised to go into the water. First of all, you have to know how to swim. Then you have to know how to swim under these circumstances. Then you have to know how to handle this dangerous animal. So not too many people would be qualified to go through this, cross this river. What if someone comes to you and says, come, get on my helicopter, I'll take you across. Do you know how to swim? No. You don't know how to swim at all. Do you know how to handle sharks? No. Do you know how to handle whales? No. Well, you can get on a helicopter and you still get across. Why? Because once you go with a helicopter, you go over the river, you don't have to deal with all these different things. In a sense, Hashem is saying there's a system. But if you have bitachon, then you are able to transcend that system in the merit of the bitachon. But it's not easy, because it's very hard, very often, to have that absolute confidence and trust, and to the point to have peace of mind. Just to give an example, there's a story in Tanakh, in the books of the prophets. There was a king whose name was Chizkiyahu, and he was the king of the Jews. He was a king that was a righteous king, and Yerushalayim was being surrounded by the soldiers of another nation. Ashur was their name, the biblical name. And there were 185,000 troops surrounding Yerushalayim. And the troops that the Jews had were no match for them. So all the generals were advising to surrender. Under these circumstances, better to surrender. Not only that, but rabbis were also advising him to surrender, because according to halacha, if you have no chance of winning the war, then you're not allowed to just allow people to get killed, then you have to surrender. But there was one exception. There was a Navi, there was a prophet, and he told them that Hashem told me in a prophecy that you will be victorious in this war and do not surrender. So he was getting tremendous pressure from all the military experts to surrender. He was getting tremendous pressure from even Torah scholars to surrender. But he had absolute faith in what the prophet told him, that Hashem said that you will win this war, you have nothing to worry about, do not surrender. So this is what it says in the Medrash. He said to God, okay, I have no strength to go and fight with these people. Hashem, I'm going to sleep, and you'll keep your word. So he went to sleep. And when he woke up in the morning, the entire army of 185,000 soldiers, they were all gone in a miraculous way. And when we are told about this story, one thing is you can focus on the miracle. Wow, 185 troops, and there was a miracle that they all were eliminated without him going to war. That's one miracle. But there's another miracle here. The person said, Hashem, I trust you. And not only did he say, I'm going to sleep, he actually fell asleep. I think everyone knows what it means when you have a little bit of anxiety about something. You toss and you turn from one side of the bed to the other side of the bed. You're not comfortable and you can't really sleep well at night. I don't have to tell you how that is a fact. Imagine when you have 185,000 soldiers surrounding and they're ready to attack, and everybody's telling you, all the experts, that they're going to just destroy everybody and all the people are going to lose their lives. And you have such trust, such peace of mind and such trust that not only you go to sleep, but you actually fall asleep, which means that he had that's called absolute trust in Hashem. Yeah.
So what about in the case where, let's say, there's a family who has complete bitachon, at least in their consciousness, that let's say someone will get better or whatever it is, but then ends up that this person doesn't get better. But in their mind, they had complete bitachon. Is that indicative of that wasn't enough? It's hard for me to understand.
So, welcome to the club. This is one of the things that's hard for all of us to understand. It's like saying that we're told that prayer is something which changes things. And many times we see when people daven, things turn around. But then there are situations where we're praying, and a lot of people are praying, and everybody, they go to shul, they say Tillim, they make Mishaberach, and unfortunately we don't see the change. Tzedakah is one of the things, there's so many stories how tzedakah is so powerful. When you give tzedakah, it could save a person from the worst kind of decree. And then there are times where you give tzedakah, and you pray, and you do tshuva, and everything, and still nothing happens. So, I don't know, we don't know the answers to everything, but there's two possibilities. One possibility is that, let's say when you talk about bitachon, that maybe the person perceives that they have the absolute bitachon, but it wasn't maybe that real absolute bitachon. The other possibility is that maybe this was, there's a rule. The rule is that every rule has an exception to the rule. Even the rule that every rule has an exception to the rule also has an exception to the rule. So it's very possible that this was an exception. There was some sort of a decree that under no circumstances could this be changed. And therefore, in that case, even the B'tachon didn't help. But generally speaking, that's the approach that just like we use the approach of prayer and we give tzedakah and we do tshuva, and we know that these three things are very powerful in overturning the decree. So B'tachon is also one of those things. In general, that's what turns over the decree. So this is the basis for the quote in Yiddish that Rebbe must have quoted this 1,000 times, and that's number 4 here on the sheet, which reads in Yiddish, Trach gut wird sein gut, which means think good and it'll be good. It's based on a story. The story happened with Tzemach Tzedek, the third Rebbe of Chabad, and he had a chassid whose son got very sick, and the doctors came to inform him that his situation became much worse and that they think he only has a few hours left to live. And he broke down crying. He couldn't calm down. And there was an older chassid that saw him, crying, and he said, what happened? And he told him what the doctor said. So he said, so why don't you go to Lubavitch, go to the Tzemach Tzedek, and ask him to pray for you? So he said, the doctor said he has a few hours to live. By the time I get there, it could be all over. What's the point? And he told him, you don't give up. You have to make every effort you can. I'll find you someone. He found him a friend, and they went off to Lubavitch. Fortunately, when they came to the city of Lubavitch, they had the opportunity to see the Rebbe right away. And he wrote a note that his son is, his condition is critical, and he's asking for a bracha or for the Rebbe to pray for him. And as he hands the Rebbe the note, the thought occurred to him that he's giving the Rebbe a note, but maybe it's already too late. And as the thought passed his mind, he broke down crying in the Rebbe's room in the presence of the Rebbe. And the Rebbe turned to him and said, what are you crying for? And he said these words, Trach gut, think positive. If you think positive, it'll be positive. And he said that when he got home, he found out that whatever was going on, the crisis was over. His son recovered. In fact, he found out that it was actually precisely in those moments that he was in the Rebbe's room that his son recovered. And for the rest of his life, whenever there was any kind of situation which was challenging, which was any kind of crisis, he said the Rebbe's words would be ringing in my ears, think good and it'll be good. And it always helped him turn things around. I always heard a story many years, but you never know when you hear stories, is it accurate? Is it a broken telephone? But not long ago, apparently this person who it happened to made a video and he told the story in person. So I heard it, and it was actually exactly as I heard it some 40 years ago. It's a story about a chassid that was living here, and he got word that his father, I think, had a heart attack, and the doctors were, they said the prognosis doesn't look good. They don't think he's going to make it. He had a certain situation, and because of that, he couldn't travel back to Israel. So he wrote a note to the Rebbe. He was panicking, wrote a note asking for a blessing. And then when he wrote what's going on, he added a few words and he wrote, I don't know what to think. So the Rebbe responded, think good, it'll be good. This is a play on words, think. So a few days later, he got word from Israel that the situation turned around. He turned a corner, he's improved, and the doctors feel that he'll pull out. He was very excited. And as the Rebbe was walking through the hallway of 770 going to daven, he stopped the Rebbe and said, we heard a word from my father, and thank God the doctors say that he's going to pull out. So the Rebbe said, and when did that happen? He said, Monday. So the Rebbe said, and when did you start thinking good? So he says, Monday. So the Rebbe says, the next time, don't write me that you don't know what to think. So basically, he was thinking good, and that thing changes around. What is it? It's not a trick. It's not a psychological trick. Basically, think good, it'll be good, is bitachon, in different words. a little bit of an explanation of what does it mean, how could my thinking good make things good, is just to give a little bit of what it says in Chassidus about the subject. It says that, as we know, one of the I would say the most fundamental principles in Chassidus is that everything that happens here in this physical world is a result of something that's going on in the spiritual realm. And from the spiritual realm, it evolves into the physical realm. So everything happens there first, and then from there, it comes down here. On the other hand, whatever we do here has an effect on, has an impact on what goes on up there. So when a person is picturing in their mind, has an image in their mind of a certain bracha, let's say someone's sick, and I picture in my mind that I believe in Hashem, I trust in Hashem, and I can see this person walking and talking and running like you always did before. The fact that I have that thought in my head creates that condition, in a sense, in the spiritual realm. And from there, it's easier to evolve down here to the physical realm. If, God forbid, a person sees images in his head of the opposite, God forbid, then in a sense, you're creating a negative image and you're creating something negative up there. And from that negative up there, it's easier to evolve from there down here. So trach good, when a person thinks positively, you're creating that positive energy in the spiritual realm. And from the spiritual realm, it then evolves and comes down and manifests here in the physical realm. So there are two things on this sheet that bring out the point that I just made. And one of them is number 3. There's a Mishnah in Pirkei Avos, we're going to learn it later, which says these words, Da malamayla mimach, know what is above you. Literally, it means the person should always be aware that there is an eye that sees everything I do, there's an ear that hears everything I say, and everything that I do is recorded by Hashem, and it's never forgotten. And if a person would remember these 3 points, that would prevent them from doing something which is negative. That's the literal meaning of those words. There's a Hasidic interpretation which comes from the Baal Shem Tov or the Maggid Mezrich. It reads as follows: Da, you should know, Mala Maila, what's going on up there, Mimach is from you. You and your thoughts and your speech and your actions, you can create that condition and that situation in the spiritual realm. And once you create in the spiritual realm, from there it evolves and manifests down here. Yeah.
Even like affect others, like what you're thinking can affect others, or just yourself?
Generally speaking, it's about your own personal life. Maybe in this case, because it was a father and a son, so it affects his child because they're connected. A similar to thing is another pasuk. It's a verse in Tehillim. That's number 2 on the sheet. Hashem tzilcha yad yaminecha. God is your protective shade at your right side. So we're comparing Hashem to a shade. Just like the shade of a tree is something which protects us from the heat of the sun, so Hashem also protects us. Again, there's a Hasidic interpretation. The word tzilcha, which means shade, in Hebrew, can also be interchanged with shadow. In fact, in English, I guess it's also related, shade and shadow. That Hashem would be compared to a shadow, meaning what? Just like a shadow copies whatever I do. So if I pick my right hand, my shadow, kids have a lot of fun with the shadows. They move around and they watch the shadow doing the same thing. So in a sense, we're saying Hashem is like my shadow. If I'm thinking positive and I'm thinking in a positive way, I create that up there, and Hashem makes positive things happen. Now, there is something in the secular world, which is also known, it's called The Secret. It's all about, there are videos about this and books about this, about having positive thoughts and attracting positive energy. But there's a big difference between the way we're explaining it in Torah and the way it's explained by this secular approach. I think the secular approach doesn't have God in the picture. It's basically saying you're the boss. You have good energy, you'll attract good energy. If you think things that are negative, you'll attract negative energy. So it's all in my hands. What we're saying is, no, Hashem is the one that is doing everything. On the contrary, he's the one that's doing everything, and he's capable to do everything and anything. But the kind of energy that I will draw down from Hashem depends on what's going on in my head. If I'm thinking in a positive way and I'm having positive images and pictures in my head, I create that in Shemayim, in heaven. And then Hashem gives me the positive. And if I am thinking in the negative, then Chas v'Shalom, I can cause that. So in Chassidus, there's a tremendous emphasis on being positive and thinking positive. In general, in Chassidus, the more you learn Chassidus, you realize that as much as the most important thing is action, but in terms of sort of growth and self-refinement and changes, the most important thing is thought, because that's where it all begins. And if you have positive thoughts in your head, then your speech will be positive, your actions will be positive, your goals will be positive. And if we have negative thoughts and we have our minds is filled with fear and anxiety and images of, God forbid, of negative things, then that just leads us in the opposite direction. So this is the meaning of think good, it'll be good, that just the fact that I'm thinking in a positive way, based on my trust in Hashem, that alone will bring Hashem's bracha. And Hashem is infinite, not limited by laws of nature. So no matter what, just like this King Chizkiyahu, no matter what all the experts said, and all the military experts and all the rabbinic experts say, but their expertise were according to the laws of nature, this is impossible. But if Hashem is saying that I'm promising you something, then we know that this is good. This is not limited by laws of nature. What always comes along with this shir on this subject of bitachon.
Wait, sorry. I have a question about the thinking positive, thinking negative. So then, for instance, like Jews as a people, we talk about the Holocaust a lot. We think about the Holocaust a lot. So would it be more in line with Hasidus for us not to talk or think about it anymore, so that we shouldn't bring about like another travesty for the Jews, or like how?
So there's 2 points to it. You're right. There are 2 points. One point is we have to do whatever we need to do. The world should not forget what happened. And there's a positive to that. On the other hand, yes, there are people who are very into it and obsessed with it and constantly thinking about it, and almost like it's like the center of their thoughts. And that, according to Hasidic thought, is not positive. In fact, in a certain sense, that's the Rebbe's approach, which means at the time that the whole world after the Holocaust was like, wow, look what happened. And basically it became a mass global mourning, mourning. The Rebbe's approach was we have to have a mass global rebuilding. And because number one, we have to focus on the positive in general and on building. And number two, too much focus on the negative could, God forbid, generate negative energy and Chas v'Shalom cause more. So yes, and same thing on a personal level. When something is not in order, we have to learn not to get stuck on that, not to focus on that, to move ahead, to move forward. Of course, if I have to work things out, I have to deal with it, but only limited to what I need to deal with it, not to allow myself to sort of become obsessed with it and focus on it. And the thought alone that I'm constantly thinking about negative things only sort of, Chas v'Shalom, could generate more negativity. In fact, there's another thing which is also unique in Chassidus. And anyone who went to any other school or any other Torah class maybe came across it. There is a part in Torah, and that talks a lot about punishment as a way of scaring us into do the right thing. I remember once reading an article, it was about health. But at the top of the article, it says that this article is not meant to scare you to death. It's meant to scare you to life. So if you eat the right foods, you'll be healthy. So the Torah's talk about punishment in this world and the other world is not meant to scare us to death, it's meant to scare us to life. And for many generations, this was part of the things that people studied, different punishments and how difficult it will be and what the results will be. And to a certain extent, this prevented people from doing something which was sinful. In Chassidus, we hardly find that, or hardly at all. And there's a few reasons, but one of the reasons is this reason. When you think about punishment and this punishment and that punishment and another, in the meantime, my mind is focused and is connected to negative things, and that only generates negative energy. There's a story, it's a cute story, but it's actually a true story that happened with a certain Rebbe. He was called Rabbi Stroll of Ruzhin, a Hasidic Rebbe. And this Rebbe, he was, it was a man that had a situation where he owed money to the nobleman for his rent. Business was bad, he didn't have the money to pay, and the nobleman threatened him that if he doesn't have the money by a certain deadline, he'll be thrown into a dungeon and he won't be released until people will pay up all the money that he owes. And in those days, the nobleman had the full power to do whatever they wanted. And of course, the man was devastated. He had no idea where he was going to get that huge amount of money that he owed. His wife told him that she heard that there's a Rebbe, people go to him for blessings, and he helps them. And he should go to this Rebbe, Rabbi Stroll of Ruzhin. And he said he doesn't believe in this. He's not interested. As much as she begged and pleaded, he didn't want to go. So she said she's going to go. She traveled to the Rebbe. In those days, there was no such thing as yeshivas for women. And women weren't educated in writing Hebrew and things like that. So they would tell the Rebbe's secretary what they're here for. He would write the note for them, and then they would hand the note to the Rebbe. At the same time that she was there was another woman there whose husband was very sick, and she came to the Rebbe for bracha, for that he should be healed, and advice. Now, the secretary made a little tiny mistake. He mixed up the notes. The lady whose husband was sick, he gave her the note that she needs 300 ruble to pay the nobleman. And the lady whose husband needed money to pay the nobleman, she had the note that said her husband is sick. She walked into the Rebbe's room. She handed the note. She had no idea because she couldn't read the Hebrew. So the Rebbe said they should put on cups. In those days, one of the ways of healing was they put on cups that sucked out the bad blood. In her mind, it was like, what? Cups? We need money, not blood. But if the Rebbe said cups, then obviously that must be the thing to do. She came back home. Her husband, who didn't believe in the thing in the first place, ridiculed her. Okay, so what kind of advice did the Rebbe give you? We're putting on cups on you, and cups? No way. That doesn't make any sense. It has nothing to do with what's going on. And they got into an argument, screaming and shouting. Apparently, she was a strong lady. She got him down, put on the cups. He's screaming and she's screaming, and the blood is gushing. The wife of the nobleman happened to walk by. And she heard such screaming, so she ran into the house and asked, what's going on? Of course, according to Torah, you're not allowed to lie. But when it's saving a life, which wasn't that case, and you're allowed to eat that kosher, you can eat on Yom Kippur, you can eat chametz on Pesach, you can do anything. So a thought came to her mind, and she said to the woman that my husband finally got together the 300 ruble, ready to give it to your husband. He was attacked by robbers. They beat him up. Look at him. He's bleeding all over the place. And she felt so bad. She said, listen, I promise you, my husband will cancel the debt this time. But from now on, start paying on time. So she basically put on cups, and the debt was canceled. So in the story, they say that someone later came back to this Rebbe and he asked him, how did this happen? And the Rebbe said to him like this, that he knew what her need really was. And he said that he saw there was actually a decree, which was something he could not change, that her husband had to go to the dungeon. But because she had such bitachon, such trust, absolute trust, that being that the tzaddik is saying something, that's the way it's going to be, and it's going to work, and she's going to be helped. The power of her trust was able to override all the things that were against her, and in that marriage, she was helped. And the usual question after the story is, what happened to the other lady whose husband was sick? And the usual answer is, I don't know. Okay, we'll stop here.